Nika, you can join in.
It's all right. I'm good.
All right. So before we get out of here, something that we wanted to talk about was fan-made content. Now, we've had a couple of discussions, a couple of stories that have related to this in the past, including the Unreal 4 remake of the original Metal Gear and Metal Gear Solid. I mean, there are a lot of fan projects, and including some that have gained some serious legitimacy. A good example being Portal. And a lot of the Valve co-opted games that that Valve has just kind of absorbed in their years. So
they said, "Hey, that looks cool. Here's money." Yeah.
So I want to talk about fan-made content because a lot of and even I think Toby Fox is Earthbound and really sort of like cut his teeth on making that type of game.
I love you.
By modding something that already existed. Now,
there's a theory that Sans is an Earthbound character.
Is that right?
That he's the skeleton of an Earthbound character. Yeah.
Oh. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Which character?
One that he borrowed from, he used a character in one of his fan-made games that at one point goes into this machine that sends him to another dimension. And the theory is that was the result with Sans, and that's why Sans is an Earthbound character.
Is that right?
That he's the skeleton of an Earthbound character. Yeah.
Oh. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Which character?
One that he borrowed from, he used a character in one of his fan-made games that at one point goes into this machine that sends him to another dimension. And the theory is that was the result with Sans, and that's why Sans can time travel.
It was Toby Fox's.
So it's from his own game?
Yes. I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay.
So these fan-made pieces of content are a little bit controversial because oftentimes they can be seen by the development company that made the original game as infringing on the intellectual property. Yep. A lot of takedown notices, a lot of legal plays being involved in stuff like this. So let's talk about fan-made content. And, is this something that game companies should be as wary of as they are now, or indeed as litigious of as they are now? Or is this something where, they should look at it as an opportunity to maybe even recruit talent into their organization?
What's amazing to me about it is the variety of responses that game companies have, because you have game companies who want nothing to do with fan-made content.
Right.
They take down, do not do the cease and desist.
Nintendo is
very much
infamous about that.
Then you have companies like you say Valve, where